Hello, folks, and welcome to this evening's stream or morning, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us. Lisa and I have volunteered to do this kind of live Ask Me Anything as part of the Festive Tech calendar. If you haven't checked out the Festive Tech calendar, make sure you do check it. The link is on the screen below. There are events happening every day of the month, I think, and there's multiple events, and it's just a free event to help everybody in the community learn something new or have some fun, and there's lots of prizes to be won and stuff like that as well. So yeah, we're going to have fun tonight, so make sure you put your questions to us. We've got a few questions that folk have already sent in that we'll be tackling, but yeah, feel free to ask some questions and interact with us, because we definitely want it to be interactive. However, hello Lisa, how are you?
Hi, I am good, thanks. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good, thanks. I can't believe it's Wednesday. Yeah.
Yes, this week is flying in, and also I'm really busy this week, and I really expected things to be getting quiet in the run up to Christmas, but this week's been super busy, and actually next week's looking, to be fair, pretty busy. I think because Christmas is on a weekend.
Yep, definitely.
There's fewer weekends in the month to get organised, right, to do Christmas shopping and do things like that. And we have technically like 4 full weeks of working. Who do we call about that?
I don't know. It's don't know. Let's not think about that, Lisa. So we've actually got our first question from the live stream, and I think it's probably appropriate to start with it given its theme and our nationality. So the question is, what's your favourite Scottish word or saying? I don't know if there's any I can say live on
I know,
air,
that's the problem. You know what a word that I quite like, it's to describe the weather, and it's dreich.
That's a good one.
And I think that's kind of keep the bleep. Do we have a bleeping I would say that dreich is definitely one of my favorite words. It describes a wet, rainy, dark, dreich day. And we have quite a few words like that, actually, to describe weather. And what were you, Sarah?
I don't know. I was going to say, it popped into my head the phrase "gonna know," and that's like, and that's a proper Scottish, like, "gonna know day that," which means don't do that, I imagine. So that's quite good. But I think, I don't know about you, Lisa, but I feel like I use less Scottish words these days because I have such an international audience. I think when you and I get together and have, like, for the viewers watching, Lisa and I regularly catch up at like lunchtimes and have big chats about anything and everything, and our speech gets really quick, and I think we go quite Scottish, but I tend to be more, I want to say universal, which is probably the wrong word, Lisa, when I'm speaking in these kind of audiences, because a lot of people say we speak too quick as Scottish folk, and sometimes they don't understand us. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I have had to really slow down, really focus on pronouncing my words clearly, so that I'm easily understood by everyone that I am talking to. But you're right, like when it's just you and me talking, or when I get really excited or really angry or really like passionate about something, my speech speeds up. We probably roll our R's a little bit more, and get a little bit more Scottish. It will be interesting to see actually what happens at the Scottish Summit, because I feel like the Scottish Summit, by the way, is going to be the event of 2022 that kicks off and actually has so many people from all over the world coming. So, I mean, there's potential for us to get, very Scottish at that event.
Yeah, because I attended the last in-person one, and I can't remember if that was the first Scottish Summit that was in person in 2019, and they had bagpipers at the door, and then they piped in the keynote speaker and stuff, so the theme was very Scottish. in terms of that. And I've seen a lot of chat about people booking hotels already because they're excited about coming across. Lots of new speakers. Me, an old speaker, will be there as well, which actually is quite a nice segment to one of the questions we received from Twitter. And I think it was from Derek. He said, can you show me around Scotland in February? Because he's coming across our Scottish Summit. He doesn't know where to visit. And I was trying to think of must visit places or must do places, what I genuinely say actually to people who are coming to Glasgow for a short space of time is to jump on that sightseeing bus that we have. It's got an open top bit if the weather's nice, not if it's dreek. But that's a really great place to thing to do because it can do the whole of Glasgow in about 2.5 hours or something like that. So you see lots of sights and stuff like that. But I'm guessing if anybody is coming across to Scotland and needs some tips, then do reach out to all of us local Scottish folk because we all have different ones because even Lisa and I are different parts of Scotland. I don't know if you can pick that up from our accent. Lisa's East Coast. Are you East Coast or East Coast, Lisa? Where does Dundee sit in that?
I would consider Aberdeen to be north, so I would say that Dundee's just east, but it is slightly northeast. Yeah. And then you're on the west. Yeah,
so we both have different perspectives about that. And I think I got slated once on Twitter suggesting all these places that people could visit in Glasgow. And they're like, there's more places than Glasgow in Scotland. And I'm like, yeah, but that's where I'm from. So that's the so yeah.
To be fair, was that from other Scottish people? Because that sounds about right.
It was. I got absolutely mauled on Twitter for some suggestions. I was like, oh my God.
We'll have none of that, thanks. But I think, do you know what? Yeah, definitely reach out to any of your Scottish people in the community. They will have suggestions. You're never too far away from a castle. So those who are traveling from the likes of America or other countries that maybe they're not as old as Scotland, and they don't have. You're never far from a castle. You're never far for some really good bits of history. It totally depends on what you want to do. There's actually quite a lot to do here. I think if you're coming for the weekend, and I imagine people who are traveling really far will be, then you can get a train from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and I mean, you need to see Edinburgh Castle. It's stunning. You need to walk up the Royal Mile. You need to experience the Royal Mile. And I don't even know how I'm going to describe this, but the concept of closes. It's a really, really tiny gap streets in between very tall buildings. It's a very Scottish thing. We might need to give you guys a link to something that explains that. But if you're coming for a long weekend, then definitely try and get to Edinburgh as well. If you just want to stay around Glasgow, then maybe we should create some kind of blog and tips and things that people can add to suggestions of things to do in Scotland and see in Scotland. But yeah, definitely reach out to us. And I am so excited for everyone to be visiting, and I feel kind of proud that people are coming to Scotland. I won't be talking because I disappeared off the face of the earth for a while and kind of missed all the call for speakers. But I will be attending and supporting everyone. I can see Dan in the chat. Does alcohol help you slip into the Scottish speed? Now, we can't talk about this on this live. We've got to keep it. We've got to behave. I've been told to behave. So, but the answer to your question there, Dan, is yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you will struggle to understand me once I have consumed alcohol. Sorry, Sarah, I said I was going to behave.
It's okay. Going back to the tourist trip as well, actually there's a train you can get from Glasgow to the bottom of Loch Lomond, and you can see that as well. So I think that's like a 40-minute train, and then you're at the bottom of Loch Lomond, which is obviously quite famous. But yeah, there's lots to do, lots to see if you don't have cars and stuff like that and you're coming to Glasgow. So yeah, I'm sure we can think of something before poker.
Become tour guides. Maybe that's our new career.
Totally.
After this live.
That would be fun. I think that would be fun to do as well. Sticking with the kind of theme of podcasts and speaking and the kind of public element of it, I think you and I have been quite active, at least for the majority of the last 2 years, if not before that, Lisa. I think we've both been quite active in the community. How has like the last couple of years been for you? Like, has it been high, low, medium, just really hard? Because I know I've had some challenges over the last couple of years with being in this room and not doing anything else. So
I would say, I like you said, was there highs, was there lows? And I think the perfect way to describe it is a roller coaster. I think I was out and about doing things before this, but I started my podcast in 2020 when we went into lockdown because I needed something to do and something to focus on. And I am so thankful for that experience and that process. And I'm super thankful to everyone that I met through it. Like, we became closer, and the Microsoft community in general, everyone is just so lovely and supportive. And I loved having guests on my podcast and having just real conversations, because that's what I like to do. Be real. Yeah. So I would say, like, totally through 2020, that was an absolute high. Towards the end of 2020, I did begin to struggle. So I really began to struggle. And I said to myself, you cannot, that was great. And it was a bit of a coping mechanism, but, a bit opportunistic and making the most of what we had available. But I said to myself, you can't get through 2021 like that again. It wasn't sustainable. Yeah, it definitely wasn't sustainable. Work was everything, and then my podcast was everything else, and there wasn't much going on around that. So I said 2021, you can't do that, Lisa. What did I do? I did it again. And not only, so I started kind of, going down the same route, podcast, community, etc. And then lockdown started to lift, and we started to be allowed to do things. And then I forgot that I did somewhat have a life outside work. And then I was trying to figure that, how does that all fit together? How does the community fit together? And I think as well, it made me realize that whilst the community and whilst I love my job, and I think I'll always be someone who will need to love what they do, I need to do something I'm passionate about. I think that's just me. I will probably always give 110%. I can't coast. That said, I think the experience that we've all been through in the last couple of years really made me reflect. And I think it's funny, actually. I went to see my osteopath at some point in between lockdowns, and I was speaking to the receptionist, and I've been going there ever since I started working in tech, actually, because sitting at a desk isn't good for you. Who knew? And the receptionist said to me, I'd said something about how I needed to stop working so hard. And she said to me, Lisa, you've said that every single year that you've been here. And it kind of hit me. This isn't a bad thing, but it kind of hit me that I have given my all to my career. I'm known as the career girl in my friends group and stuff. And I was like, that's great. And I don't think that will ever go away. But I really, really need to have something outside of this realm that is it's very different and for me. And I found that this summer, and we'll come on to our outdoor activities that we got into this summer. But so I would say a roller coaster, full of highs, full of lows. I think that's life. I think it's going to continue to be like that. And what I'm just trying to do now is maybe figure out how to, instead of one of those crazy roller coasters that's got the warnings and stuff. I went to Disneyland in Paris a couple of weeks ago, and I just need one of those teacup rides. I need to figure out a way of balancing out the highs and lows and having them not be so extreme, I think. What about you? How have you felt?
I think I've found that as well. I took the opportunity because I wasn't traveling and didn't have to deal with jet lag and all that kind of stuff, Lisa, to actually ramp up the activities I was doing when I was working at Microsoft. And I went full tilt, really busy. I think over a 2 or 3 month period, I spoke at 20 odd user groups, which is insane because you would never have done that back in the pre-COVID world. You would have maybe able to do maybe 3 because of budget or travel or whatever. And that really burnt me out. I think at one point I hit proper like burnout. Like it was just not fun to stand here in front of this camera anymore, to a certain degree, or it was a chore and I had to force myself. So I definitely, went full tilt up and then came crashing down because I didn't know how to find that happy medium of it. So it's definitely been a learning curve for me to try and figure that out, how to balance, early meetings and late nights working at user groups and stuff. But on the flip side of that, I've had great experiences because I've been able to speak and connect to community members that I would never have been able to speak to normally, because I think I connected with quite a few user groups and conferences in Africa. And I don't think I would ever had that opportunity just because of the travel budget and the logistics of getting there. But I've been able to speak with them and hear from some of them. So that was great. But it's definitely a new challenge going forward, how I'm going to balance being here and supporting the stuff that I love doing and only saying yes to the things that I really, really want to do. Because it's quite... This is a proper first world problem, right? Like it's quite draining to stand here in front of the camera and give a performance or a presentation. Even if you're doing it in person, standing on a stage, it is quite draining. Because let's face it, it is a performance. You are like performing in front of an audience because they expect a certain thing from you. Hopefully a good presentation is one of them. But yeah, it's quite draining to do that. And I don't think people fully understand some of that. So I've been trying to learn how to better cope with that. And think about the mental health aspect of it and make sure that I'm looking after myself and not just giving everything away. One thing that's helped me is actually listening to, I don't know if everybody will know this comedian. She's Scottish, called Susan Calman. And she's a comedian who has a lot of depression issues and stuff like that. She's been quite open about some of her mental health issues. But she did a podcast, I think 2018 and 2019, that I've only just found. And she talks about how the comedians cope with that because they're quite a public facing and they're quite, they have to be on for that like half an hour or 45 minutes and how draining it can be and some of the coping mechanisms that they've had. So I'm trying to learn from other people like that as well outside of the tech industry.
That is a great idea. I love that, learning from other areas. I love that because I think two things you mentioned there. One, it is really draining. After I do, it's funny. So and I've been trying to think about this a lot more. What do I enjoy? What do I not enjoy? What drains me, but what also charges me up, let's say. And it's funny because a podcast, I find doing a podcast one of the most relaxing things ever because I am in the moment. I am fully giving that person 100% of my attention. I am completely in the moment. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I am not worrying about yesterday. I am present, right? And we, mindfulness and being present is it's a key. It solves depression. It solves anxiety, worried about the future, depression, potentially thinking too much about the past, right? So when I'm on a podcast, I love it. I find it the most relaxing thing ever. But after a podcast, I'm really, really drained because I give my everything to people. That's just kind of like who I am. I'm like introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert, one of the two. Basically, love people, love being around people, need to recharge by myself. So I think that's one thing. The other thing, you mentioned the word expectations, and I think that's so important to touch on. I think and this will apply to everyone in the community who's been doing more throughout lockdown, you might feel like you've now set yourself a target or an expectation. You might think that other people have those expectations of you as well. And that can be hard to deal with. So I would definitely, every time one of those thoughts creeps into your head, I would definitely try and pick that up, label it as an expectation, quickly decide whether it's someone else's expectation or your own. If it's someone else's, chances are you've made it up. People don't actually think about you as much as we like to. We love to think that people are thinking about us, right? We do. We're humans. That is natural. They are not. People are not. And if it is your own expectation, then challenge yourself. Is it realistic? Is it fair? Are you setting yourself up for success, or are you setting yourself up for failure? And that's definitely something I've been trying to do as I've stepped back into doing more things like this is to be realistic about the expectations that I let sort of land on me.
Yeah.
It's difficult though. It's not easy.
Yeah, there's definitely things you can do, I think, to balance it out and protect your own mental health. I think Dan's saying in the comments here that comedians do like performances night after night. But what I don't think a lot of people realise is potentially I'm spending 4 or 5 days a week actually filming videos and recording and being the whole, yay, Sarah on camera. So ultimately I am doing that back-to-back performances. So now I'm very wary of doing that. Like I'll push things out and I'll maybe say only 2 days a week I'm doing like a live stream or a video or something, and then that's it. There's no more than that. Like if you don't get me on those filming days, you don't get me till the next week or the week after or whenever, to stop that burnout. Because at the end of the day or the end of the week, you end up just flopping on the couch and just vegetating for the next 2 days until the cycle starts again.
Yeah, because even if so back when I was like really active, it's not just the, you know, doing say this or a podcast or whatever back to back. I crammed far too much in. That was, you know what, it's great. I learned really fast about lots of different things, but yeah, wouldn't necessarily advise that. But then also, right, we're doing work as well. So I am answering emails. I am getting, you know, urgent requests from salespeople because they're always urgent when they come from salespeople. I've got people asking for help and I want to help them. Then I've got to, you know, be in a customer meeting. Then I've got to train salespeople, sales teams. Then I've got to, you know, present to somebody else within Dell. So yeah, like you're saying, like I have recognized that I need some downtime just before I do something like this, and it can only needs to be half an hour. I like to prep beforehand. The half an hour before, I like to zone out, and then to be honest, if they are in the afternoon and they are something that's quite heavy hitting, I just need to be offline. I need to be away to recharge. And I think it's just recognizing that and then starting to try and schedule things better.
Yep. So Imran's asking, how do you identify the signs of burnout and how should someone avoid it? I'm going to say that maybe you and I aren't the best use cases because we didn't notice. I think we noticed it maybe in the other person, from our interactions, but we never identified it as ourselves until like we were at that breaking point, and then one of us said, maybe you should stop doing that or like do something different. Like, I don't know. Have you got any words of wisdom since dealing with that? Or
I would say, so I can only share personally some of the signs looking back, and some of the signs that I would say I'm still struggling with, and so I'm trying to be more aware of. But I found myself getting really frustrated, so quite easily frustrated at any blockers that were put in place. Some, you know what, like I'm going to give myself some credit. Like some, I think I was okay to be frustrated at, but I would say frustration to a point that it was all consuming. So I felt like I really had no control over my day or my week. Or, you know, things that were happening within work. So I would say experience and frustration that kind of is all consuming. I personally got really upset. So I really struggled with getting quite emotional, which is really hard for a woman in tech because I am always questioning myself as to, am I just being emotional? Is this justified? Am I just going to be thought of as an emotional female? It's so hard because... And then you sit there and you think about it and you're like, no, this is valid. So it's difficult. But I found myself very quickly getting to those points and being quite emotional. So I would say, frustration, all-consuming thoughts, very all or nothing thinking. So very like, this is all good or this is all bad. That's definitely a sign. I was getting upset. I would say also, just really, I mean, I'm not a morning person anyway, so I struggle to get up, but it was a different kind of struggle to get up. It was I don't want to get up. And it was almost this anxiety about logging on, about being in meetings. and just, really, really struggling. I think to be honest, everyone's going to need to experience a little bit of it for you to identify your own triggers. But like Sarah said, make sure you've got someone to really talk to about things, and talk. Like, please talk about things. Don't be worried about being too, moaning too much or complaining, or, if you've got someone that you can trust and confide in, one, they will tell you when you're moaning and complaining too much and you need to now, take action to move forward. But they will also listen and support. They will help you understand whether you are being rational, reasonable, etc. And do you know what? You probably are. I think a lot of it is a build-up of lots of different things and things all happening at the same time that can cause burnout. But yeah, make sure that you have someone to talk to, whether it's someone in your team or that you work with, or someone that's in the similar area outside of work. I know that, again, that was a super positive for me, was meeting people that I could have those conversations with, and especially other, women in tech. And, shout out to, do you know what? Shout out to my teammate, Michael Wells, by the way. Whew, I had an absolute meltdown a couple of weeks ago. And I actually messaged him because, again, I was thinking, do you know what? I need to tell people. I need to say, look, I'm struggling and I need help. Or can you help me with this? Yeah. And he was so supportive and so understanding, and I didn't feel judged. And, he gave me some really encouraging words, and then really helped me solve the problem that I was trying to work on. So yeah, I would do that. And we'll come on to this. Get a hobby outside work.
So since you've mentioned the hobby, and I know what this big reveal is, but what has been your hobby that has taken you away from your desk and helped you recharge?
So I have been living out my little girl dreams, and I now have my own horse. And honestly, every time I think about it, I can't believe it. So it was actually back in November of 2020. I decided that I needed a new hobby. I needed out of the house. Me and my brother had bought bikes in the summer, which comes on to yours as well. I think I only rode it like 2 or 3 times, Sarah. I know. But on one of the rides, we went across the river here to a forest, and we were riding around the forest on a really lovely sunny day. And I came across a yard, and I seen loads of horses and people on their horses, and I was like, because I used to ride when I was younger, really, really young. Like, I haven't been on a horse for over 20 years. But I loved them. I loved spending dawn until dusk at the yard, mucking out, grooming, just like doing whatever I needed to be with horses. So I got back into horse riding in November. Then we went into lockdown. And I would definitely say that last lockdown was a breaking point for me. That was so horrible. So I was the person messaging them all the time. When are you opening? When are you opening? They took a little bit longer to open just because they'd been closed down for so long, and it really impacted the yard and the riding school. So they opened back up in May, and by September, I had a horse. So yeah, his name is Bailey. He's beautiful. He's a bay. He's got a white stripe down his nose. He's about 15.3 hands. He is he's 17 years old. He does not act like he's 17 years old. If Sarah, you'll have seen his videos on my Instagram running about the field. And he has a best friend actually called Cody. They are inseparable. So I have taken to when I take Bailey in for his feeds, I take Cody in for his feeds as well. So yeah, and I've been spending all my time at the yard to the point where, again, back to that all or nothing. I was like, right, we need to try and figure out how we fit work, this, and a life in. So I've got my set days that I go to the yard. Tonight is obviously not one of them. I go 5 days a week though, and I absolutely love it.
Yep. I can see, and I've had the messages. She's been sending me pictures randomly all the time. I have been receiving messages of the new outfits that she constantly buys Bailey. Like she's had a Halloween theme one. Have you ordered his Christmas one yet?
Yes. So my favorite color is blue. So one of the big decisions is, what color of saddle pad are you going to go with, and what's his color going to be?
Yeah.
So my favorite color is blue, and has been ever since I was little. So he's got a blue saddle pad. I got him a blue head collar made. I got him blue feed buckets. I'm obsessed with Halloween, so I got him an orange saddle pad with a skull on it, and I got a very special handmade Halloween halter, rope halter for his head. It's very cool. And then I have just ordered him a red and green Santa saddle pad, and it also comes with a little ear bonnet. But I think, did you follow my story where I put the Halloween ones on him, then he didn't really speak to me for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we might give those a miss because he was not amused.
But it's been actually really nice seeing you be dead enthusiastic about something like that's taking you away and actually giving you the energy back to kind of come back and do this. Because I think when I suggested doing this, you hadn't been on like Twitter and stuff or doing on your podcast. So I did feel a bit bad, but then I also was like, yeah, we need to get Lisa back.
Sometimes you need a bit of a push, right? And it's like having those people who know you really well and knowing that push is required. I mean, it's crazy, right? Last night I was out in Storm Barra. Okay. Tonight, it's not even windy or raining, and I won't leave the house to go and pick up some parcels that I really need to pick up. But last night, I was out in a storm feeding horses in the dark and the wind and the rain. And it's, do you know what's really great about it? When I have a bad day, and this is, again, I would say one of my signs, but might be relevant to other people. I want to go into like hermit mode, but in a negative way. Sometimes I do that, and, that's fine. But I don't want to leave. I want to hunker down. I'm like, I've had a bad day and I don't want to go anywhere. And sometimes I think, well, I message the yard, well, I ask them to feed my horse. And then I'm like, you can't do that because they are busy. There are, loads of horses at that yard. It's such a great yard, by the way. They're all so friendly as well. So shout out to Kinshaw Stables. But so I know that I need to go. And as soon as I get up and get dressed and get out of that house, honestly, it does wonders for my mood.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you've got it.
Yeah, thank you. So I did not take up. I mean, I loved riding my bike, but nah. Do you know what? I live where I live at the top of a hill in the city. It's really not bike riding material. Like I need to take my bike somewhere, and that's just not happened. But you have also taken up and spent a lot of money on an outdoor activity. In fact, if anybody else has taken up any new hobbies throughout lockdown or outdoor activities, drop them in the chat. I'd love to hear if anybody else has done this.
So I love my bike as a kid. Like, see the minute school finished, Lisa, like in the summer holidays, I would be on my bike. I remember one particular year I finished school, we went to pick up my new bike, and then I don't remember not being on that bike until I went back to school that whole summer. And I've always said I wanted to get a bike again and stuff like that. But you know what it's like as an adult, you're like, oh, it's too much money, too much, blah, 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 not enough time. And then I finally decided in the summer, I think maybe August, that I was going to get one. And I found this bike shop down in Kilmarnock that had the exact bike that I wanted. And when I went to visit the store, they were super friendly. The guy is amazing. I've been down several times since. But he was just amazing and I loved it. And picking up that bike, that was just an amazing day. And I've been out. I haven't probably been out as much as I would like to do just because of the logistics of it and time, and it's not as easy. And especially now that we've got winter and it's like dark before 9 and after 4 and stuff like that. But I love being out on that bike, Lisa. Like we were off, or I had a public holiday last Tuesday, and I was like, I'm going on my bike, and it was wet and it was rainy and it was horrendous. Like it should have been a day where I snuggled up and watched some Netflix or Disney Plus.
By the way, the power of proper waterproofs.
Yes.
I can now get excited about proper waterproof. Like I've lived it. Obviously, I'm from Scotland. You'd think I'd be better at this, but I literally walk around every winter like a drowned rat. because I don't invest in proper waterproofs. Oh my God, once you invest in proper waterproofs, you can go out. It's amazing.
I know, I've done that. So I got, for my birthday recently, I got my husband to buy me this really fancy cycle jacket, and I got to use it last Tuesday, and I was like, look at me in the rain and the wind, it doesn't matter. And it was just amazing. Like, I came back filthy and I had to clean the inside of my car because my bike just was absolutely gutted. But it's really nice to have that, and it gave me so much energy just being out, even though it was a miserable day and I probably looked like an absolute idiot in all the kit that I've got. But
all the gear, no idea. That's we're learning.
No leg power. But yeah, I love that, and it's definitely going to be something. When I got the bike at first, we were still kind of in the tail end of summer, so I would get up early, Lisa, and go for a ride, and then come back and get set up for work, and I loved that. So I'm slightly gutted that the daylight's obviously decided to disappear.
The daylight has hit harder this year, and I was wondering why. And then I realised it's because I've been out every night at the yard until really late with loads of daylight. And now I only get to see Bailey in the daylight on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yep, and there's not enough time to do all of these things. But yeah, I've spent a lot of money on the kit, and it's been fun. And I'm looking forward to next year when we get more places and stuff like that. Maybe I'll need to come across to Dundee, and we can go for a /horse ride /bike ride and look like idiots.
Bailey is a tad let's call him sensitive. Do you know what's actually really interesting about this is he is sensitive, and that's why he's not in the riding school, right? Because he can do private lessons and stuff, but he is not great in group lessons. I'm not seeing this, but apparently he runs to the back of the group in an unsafe manner. So he really benefits from this kind of like one-on-one like situation, but he can get a little bit spooked at certain things. He got spooked at a pigeon the other month and ran into the back of me, but that was fun. But what's really interesting about that is talking about being mindful, practicing mindfulness and being in the present. It is crazy to experience, but when my energy rises when I'm on him, his energy rises.
Yeah.
And the only way for me to get him to chill out is for me to chill out. And it's a really nice way, because sometimes practicing that, if you're just trying to meditation or by yourself, is really difficult. But when you've got something like that kind of forces you, I have to do it. There's like another, there's a horse, like, depending on me to calm down. So yeah, that's been another really great thing about that is he, we both need to chill out together.
We've got a couple of questions in the chat. I want to go to the one about Scotland, and then we'll come back to your question, Pierre. Just to, but first of all, Imran's asking, have we been to any new places around Scotland recently?
Skye.
Yes, you went in a caravan and drove a caravan, didn't you?
Oh, I drove a renovated transit van thing. That's what it was.
It sounded non-glamorous now, Lisa.
I know, it was really well renovated. It wasn't glamorous, but it was it was amazing. Me and two of my best friends went on a road trip up to the Isle of Skye. And oh my, that place is beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. It's tiny, and there's actually so much to do on the island that we only the way we planned our trip, we'd probably do it slightly different this time, but we only had a day there. Then we went up to, so you all need to Google this. Oh God, what's it called?
Applecross.
Right, so you all need to Google the drive to Applecross, and you will find YouTube videos on it. I did not do this part of the drive. Shout out to Amy who did this, because the drive to Applecross starts with a warning that you should not use the road, and bans all kinds of vehicles. But basically, you're driving uphill, like so steep, and then it's like jackknifed, and it's beautiful but terrifying. Like terrifying.
I've never done it. It's on my bucket list to do because I love driving. So I want to drive it, Lisa. And
I like driving, but not that.
See, I'm probably going to have to do it myself because my husband and like my friends and stuff are pure like petrified of small roads and stuff, and I'm like, oh, foot down, just go. So yeah, I might have to do it myself. But yeah, Applecross is.
You can drive. We'll go on a trip. We'll get this renovated transit van. She was called Scylla.
Oh,
yeah, from Perthshire camper vans, I think. It's a lovely lady who basically has these renovated like vans and camper vans. She was lovely. But Applecross was stunning. Once you'd got up the hill and you were driving there, it honestly felt like you were driving to the end of the earth.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And when you got there, there's a big bay that comes in from the North Sea, and
it's not
over this side.
Yeah, it's Atlantic.
Try to think of a map. And we watched the sunset and had dinner, and stunning. Absolutely stunning.
That's part of the North Coast 500 or NC 500 route, if anybody has seen that advertised. So you'll hit Applecross if you do the NC 500. That's what to do if you're coming across.
On the way, we stopped off at one of, I think it's Scotland's most photographed castles, Elandonnan. That was stunning. And you know what? We had amazing weather as well. We're so lucky for it. It was brilliant.
I got engaged at Elandonnan.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, that's cute. Maybe one day. No, let's not.
Two places I actually visited this year that have been on my bucket list for ages were Dornoch and Braemar. Dornoch's kind of further up, like beyond Inverness, away up that side of the coast, so it's proper northeast. And then Braemar is actually kind of in the Highlands. It's where like the Queen, so the Queen of England or Queen of UK, whatever you want to call her, actually has one of her castles, or Scottish home, Balmoral, is just like 15 minutes away from it. So that's the kind of geography of that. They're amazing places. They're dead chilled out. They're lovely if you just want to go away for a weekend and just, chill. Where we stayed in Dornoch, right on the edge of the sea. So we had a caravan and looked out on the sea. It was amazing. The beaches were stunning. And Braemar is just a lovely little town where you can get like amazing chocolate shop, and there's lovely like cafes and stuff like that, and it's great in the summer because there's lots of activities, and also Braemar is near lots of skiing as well if you want to do stuff like that. So
our drive to Skye in the summer, I was amazed that we kept coming across, again, the sun was blazing and we kept coming across loads of different lochs, and there was tons of water sports going on, people having a great time. And I was like, I need to, so I think next year we're going to try and get another Scottish road trip in, because there's so much to see here, and it's a crime that I have not seen more of it.
So I want to get back to Pierre's question, which is quite a serious question given the topics we've been covering, but I want to cover it. So Pierre's asking, he struggles to know what we as men can do to be supportive without being patronising. So he's looking for any suggestions we have on being better allies.
This is a tough topic.
I know.
And again, do you know what's funny? It's horrible that I feel like this. But as I was saying earlier, when I was feeling emotional, and then I have this inbuilt reaction of, will I be perceived as just an emotional female? Is this justified? Am I being too emotional? The same barrier automatically comes up with this question, because I think, can I really share what I think? Will I be judged? Will I be told I'm being negative? And that's sad in itself.
Yeah. It's actually funny that this question's come back up, because this is actually kind of a question you asked me way back in your podcast at April 2020, which is weird. I listened to it, Lisa. Oh my God, we sound different. But I think we talked about women in tech and how we both at that time shied away from anything that had women in tech branded on it because we hated the connotations of it. I don't know if I've changed my opinion since then, because I've actually got more involved with women in tech activities or being more active in that space since.
I have. And you know what I've really realised? And it was through 2020. It was through all the trouble in America. It was about learning about white privilege and learning about privilege in general. more about like us living in a misogynistic world, and just, you know, bias, etc. And I think that, I mean, there were at different stages of my career, there was reasons why I stayed away, right? The first one, and I would say I've grown from this, was that not that the points are not still valid, is that I didn't relate when I went. Even in women tech events, there seemed to be this, you know, if you're not technical, i.e. you're not like a software developer, and you've also not given birth, it was almost like you weren't a woman in tech. So that in itself, and I stand by that.
Yeah.
The other sort of realization that I came to in 2020 was that, and this is where you get deep, guys. So again, I would say point one on being allies is that when things get deep and it gets uncomfortable, please just stick with it. If like thoughts come up and you feel like you're triggered or you feel like I'm offending you or anything, please just stick with it. It's uncomfortable, right? Because I actually, as a woman in tech, went through the same thing in 2020. And what I realized is that I had become numb to so much. So especially when the Sarah Everard thing happened as well, right? That tragedy in London. I was speaking to my friend about this the other day. We had like a really deep, interesting conversation about it. And again, that's rare for us. We don't actually speak to each other about what we're going through. But I realized, I will get to my point. I realized that I'd become numb to quite a lot of things. So back when I was young and in my 20s, I was like, I don't need to be part of these women in tech things because I'm going to make it on my own.
Yep.
Wow. Like, it's a shame that I actually thought like that, but that is the environment that we create, right? So I was like, I'm going to make it on my own. I don't want to make it because I'm a woman, blah, blah, blah. Now, there's still some of that rings true, right? But really, what I was doing, I was like, you know, I can get on with guys, blah, blah, blah. And I do. I naturally get on with guys, love a bit of banter. I think, to be honest, when you're from Scotland, it's hard to not get on with it. But, there's a concept called pick me, right? And again, I hope I'm not going to, well, I might offend people. But pick me is a trait that some women have, which is we have been brought up our entire existence, things that are so ingrained in society that you do not even notice them, that we are to compete against each other. Yeah. Mainly for men, but now it's become for jobs or all these kind of things, right? And that means that you will tolerate things that are unhealthy or unacceptable because you want to be the cool girl. You want to be the one that fits in with the guys and you want to like make it, etc. Yep. And when I started to learn about, like, think really more about white privilege, about thinking about my position as a white woman who is the closest to the top of the food chain, and yes, white guys, I'm talking at you. And then what we can do to help support our Black or women of color, because they have it the worst. And I started to really, really think about this. And that coupled with the Sarah Everard thing, I honestly blew my mind in 2020. I started to learn about and think more about how I have put up with so much in my career because I'm just numb to it. The Sarah Everard thing, I started to think about what I've experienced on nights out, what I've experienced at work, how I myself, when it's dark like this and I need to go to Tesco's, all the things that go through my head to prepare myself for that walk. The fact that we need to think about what makeup we wear and how we dress. So I would say, to be a better ally, there are a couple of things. One, please try and understand that when we are talking about these things, because this is what I really struggle with, I'm not saying poor me, I'm not being a victim and I'm not moaning, but I'm trying to explain to you that there's a large part of our brain and our subconscious that is taken up on the daily dealing with things that we, you know, being a female in a man's world, because it still is. And I would say the second thing is, please also remember that being an ally does not come with a certificate or a badge. It also does not absolve you from hearing about it doesn't absolve you from potentially being problematic. Every one of us has a mother, right? We have sisters, we have, you know, you're not then automatically not sexist, right? And we're not blaming you personally. This is a like society thing, right? but it doesn't come with a certificate. It doesn't come with a badge. And it doesn't mean that when someone raises a topic or a problem, when a woman is sharing an experience, that they have to then go and list all the men that they're not referring to because you consider yourself an ally and it's not you.
Yep.
We are constantly, every single time we want to tweet, and people are, more open about it than others, but don't for a second think that they're not thinking someone is going to try and tell me how I should have said that better, or I'm going to have offended someone who it doesn't apply to. Please take that energy that you get in being offended and please put it to better use.
Yep.
And do you know what? I'm sorry for going on a rant, but that was really, it wasn't the main reason I disappeared off social at all. There was a lot of different reasons, but that definitely was a factor. And since coming back on, I've seen bits of it again. And it's a shame because it's already put me off, and I'm trying to be there because representation is so important. So now I see it as more of and I don't know if this is what you now think, Sarah, too, that instead of shying away from it, even if we find it difficult and we find it strange and we're trying to find our place, I want to be here and I want to represent so that any other women in tech, young girls or whatever can see me, maybe see something they relate to, and then think, I could do that.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit more open to talking about it now because, like you say, years gone by, I would put up with the conversations at the lunchtime table about really derogatory things, Lisa, and I was told once that I had to dress more like a female in order to get my career to the place that I wanted to be. And stupid me took that advice and started dressing more female-y. I don't even know what dressing more female-y means. But and I kick myself now for following that, because guess what? See the guy that told me that, Lisa? He's still in the same job, at the same position, in the same level, and guess who's not? We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, so there's stuff there that I've just put up with, and because I didn't feel offended, I thought wasn't appropriate to join the women in tech scene because none of that offended me, and I wasn't, sensitive and soft and stuff like some of the other women that I thought. But yeah, I'm much more vocal about it, and much more, like the other day I went on a rant on Instagram about how the fact that something I was doing, the equivalent amount of work, wasn't getting recognised, but a male who did even less than I was getting more credit and more visibility and more popularity. And I went on a rant about that because that is proper gatekeeping, that is proper biases towards someone, to be quite honest. And I also went on a rant recently, and I think Imran's maybe still with us. He put out a lovely post saying he had water bottles that were branded with Azure Crazy. Mine's actually downstairs, so thank you for that, Imran. And everybody was actually suggesting males. Like there was about 10 or 12 replies, Lisa, and only one person had put down a female. And I think it was Izzy that they'd mentioned, but that was it. One person out of like those 10 tweets, and I kind of lost it and put out a retweet, and I was like, could someone please nominate some of the amazing women that we have in this scene, because this is just not right. Thankfully people picked it up, and yeah, I got a water bottle, so thank you. I didn't mean to get a water bottle out of it, but it was more the premise that even just doing that, see if you're nominating someone for something like that, include a female, include someone that's different to you, that isn't in your little bro group, because I know there's a few of them kicking about where they all just help each other and stuff like that. Be more inclusive in that thing. That's how to be a better ally.
It is difficult, right? Like, you're changing a habit, you're changing a bias, you are having to actively think about it. So I get that it is requiring effort, and I get that it's difficult because there is a difference between trying to be inclusive and engaging more people, and then there is people who are literally riding the coattails of the women in tech movement to and it's different. It's hard, right? Because then you're like, oh my god, am I going to be accused of each one?
Yep.
But I'm really sorry, but it is hard, and it's going to require effort. And I've had these discussions with men who are hiring. They've said it's difficult to hire in women. It is.
Yep.
That's great. That's, no one's denying that. It is difficult. you can express that it's difficult. You can ask for help. That's fine. But then accept that it is difficult and it's going to require effort to change. Because just like things like racism and all these other issues that, you know, plague our world, they require effort. And they require effort from those in positions of privilege. And yes, it's hard. And yes, it's difficult. And yes, you're going to get it wrong sometimes. But, and I don't mean to be competitive, it's really not as hard as suffering through it every day. So when we like, and you know, we're not asking you to become like, you know, someone who just like chants about it every day.
Yeah.
But any small effort that you can do to be more to be more inclusive and is really appreciated. And it is hard. And it's hard in a way that's uncomfortable. Like if it was hard work and we were just having to get like 20 logs from here to there, that's the kind of hard that everyone can get involved with. But it's a hard that's going to make you maybe embarrassed, feel awkward, angry, have to like have difficult conversations. And that is a difficult thing to do. And it is a draining thing to do. So we're not saying, you know, just do that every day, all day long. But yeah, just, you know, step into the arena, as it were. I would appreciate that.
I think a few guys have said to me privately, and I'm not going to name any names, but they find it hard to include women sometimes because they think that they'll be seen as being token invites. And I don't think either of us, Lisa, would ever want to be invited to do something just because of our sex. Or do you?
Views are now changing because I'm like, I'll be there for the representation because representation is so important. It's so important that, I mean, you know, recently there was a panel put together for a very big conference from my company, shall we just say. And I seen the presentation came up and they were saying who's going to be the speakers and stuff. And I thought, one, I'm maybe not as good as those other people, but I think I'm good enough. And two, at this point, I would take that token slot just to even be a moderator because the representation is so important for other women in the industry and younger women as well coming in. And so, but yeah, you're right. And but speaking about that tokenism thing, even if people do think it's a tokenism, again, this is the hard part, right? You will know in your heart whether it's not. Does it really matter what other people think? And at the end of the day, it still ends up with a woman on a stage or at a talk.
Yes. And I've also heard people say that they're too frightened to reach out to women in case they come across as creepy by sliding into like their Twitter DMs. And let's be blunt about this. See if you slide into someone's like Twitter DMs and you're posting pictures of things that you shouldn't be, that's creepy. If you're posting a message and saying, "Hi Sarah, how you doing? I love your work. Can you come speak at this event?" I'm totally going to reply to that. Well, I should hopefully if I don't forget. But that's the level. That's not creepy. That's totally not creepy. If you know, we maybe connect on Twitter and you've liked some things or commented, that's not creepy to reach out and ask me to do something with you. The other version of it is completely creepy. So please don't be frightened.
There is grey areas, but just be, you know, friendly and considerate. And if you want to reach out and you actually want to speak to, you know, someone because you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation about these things, ask. Realize though that you're not entitled for them to say yes, because it's difficult. I had a few last year and they really took it out of me because basically I spent like 2 hours of my time trying to convince someone that like these were real issues. So yeah, but just be you're right. Twitter is not a dating app. Although I would say that the dating apps aren't much better either. So yeah, don't worry. Chances are, if you're worried about being creepy, you're not going to be creepy. So nor LinkedIn. So yeah, I would definitely just reach out. I'll tell you, I've been lucky actually. I don't know if I'm just too scary honestly, I don't know what it is, but I've been
Scottish craziness.
Not an invitation, by the way, but I've been really, really lucky, and I've not had many bad experiences like that. I had an experience in the summer of 2020. A guy who had liked a podcast that I had liked, and I tweeted about it. And he was trying to be chatty with me in the Twitter DM. And I replied, and I was polite. say, oh yeah, I have read that book and it's great. And then he continued to DM me, like, because he clearly noticed what I was liking and stuff. And I said, yeah, that's great. And then kind of just didn't reply. And then I had to say to him, like, you know, yeah, I like that too. And I've tried that. It was about gratitude journaling. I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm just not, I don't want to chat. I didn't want to chat. You know, I don't owe, we don't, I was like, I don't owe you my attention because you think we have things in common. And he continued to DM me. And I actually screenshot it and sent it to one of my best friends, actually, Scott. Shout out Scott. I sent it to him and he was like, yeah, no, this is strange. This is strange. And actually, when the Sarah Everard thing happened, he also put up a poll on his Instagram and asked his girlfriends to reply and just gauge their feelings about when walking alone at night, like what can we do and things like that. And then he actually brought up that topic in his WhatsApp group chats with his friends and actually talked about it in like a healthy way to, like, you know, express what could be done. And, you know, people felt, you know, awful about being thought of like that, but what can we do? And that, again, perfect example of how to be a brilliant ally.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I've had terrifying experiences in my Twitter. Some guy asked me for coffee. I said no because we were currently in lockdown and I hadn't even like seen my family and stuff. He then took offence and started making up a story about me and said I had racially abused them and all this, and reported me and tried to get me sacked, Lisa. So that's an element of don't be creepy. Don't do that. That's exactly not.
If you're worried about being creepy, chances are you're not going to be creepy. There'll be the odd outlier who actually are being creepy and want to somehow find a way, but chances are you're probably not. So you're fine.
It's nice to see some people joining us. I see some people are just joining us. We've got a good friend in the chat as well. He's going by the name Ratworks tonight, but it's Chris. Chris was my
brilliant ally.
Yes, Chris is my old boss, and then he's done your graphics, hasn't he, for your YouTube channel and stuff like that. So, nice to see you here. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us in. We're kind of at the hour mark, but I'm kind of loving this chat, Lisa. We always chat for ages.
I know. We said they are going to cut us off because we'll be here until 9 p.m. and we'll be getting messages from the festive tech calendar telling us to end it here. I don't know if we're allowed to continue.
I think we can. Let's go until.
Does anybody want to? I'm really enjoying this interaction, guys. Like I love it.
No,
right. We'll keep this quiet. I know it's a live thing, but I secretly travelled to meet some people for work purposes. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Maybe I just chose to work from a different location and there were other people there. But oh my God, it was like a new lease of life. I can't wait to get back to meeting people in person. And whilst this is not the same, do you know what? Thanks for the push, Sarah, because you've reminded me why I actually do like being part of this community.
Do you know what's going to slightly terrify me, Lisa? Like, we haven't been in person with each other for 2.5 years. And I'm dead worried about coming to meet you for a coffee or something. And then there'll be like zero chat because we don't know how to interact as people. Is that abnormal?
No, I feel like, that's, yeah. Is anybody else worried about having to meet people in person? I feel like I might be quite socially awkward. Do you know what? We'll all be thrown into the mix in Scottish Summit.
Oh God. We're not going to recognise anybody because we'll not have filters on.
We won't have filters on. We'll have like changed our hair, but no one's updated their profile picture. Is it Gregor? He's got a hoodie that has his name on it.
Yes, Gregor and I both have hoodies because we got them as the Glasgow Azure user group. So yeah,
I need one of them with my name on it so that everyone could.
There was a question.
Yes, Ned.
Yes. Yeah. So we had a question that we got sent in from when we put out the thing in Twitter, and it says, if someone wanted to start doing video content, how do you recommend they start and overcome that kind of stage fright, imposter syndrome? And is there anything kit-wise, like tools or microphones or anything, you suggest as getting first of all? what do you think, Lisa?
Yeah, because we've got two different approaches to this.
Have we?
Well, I was just kind of like, I'm going to use Zoom. I'm going to just, it wasn't very tech savvy. Let's just put it that way. Whereas I think, and you can tell, right? I mean, your stuff, Sarah, is top notch. That's why I still rely heavily on others who have the expertise, like Krist from Ratworks, who's in the chat. Okay, so how to get started. This is going to be very unhelpful, but I'll try and then be helpful afterwards. So just do it. Think about ripping off a plaster and just get it done. The second piece that could also be seen as not helpful is nobody, I touched on this earlier, right? We like to think that everyone's watching us and has expectations of us and is, judging us, and I mean, it's hard to say that nobody really is paying that much attention with video content because you want them to pay attention. So it's a bit of a catch-22. But in the grand scheme of things, nobody is paying that much attention, and you have to start somewhere. If you look back at the beginning of, I'm going to use you as an example, Sarah. If you look back at the beginning of Sarah's videos, or anybody, just pick your favorite YouTuber and go right back to their first video. You will see the journey that they have been on. Classic saying, but don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20, right? But it's true. These things are true. So I would definitely just start. There's a really cool statistic about podcasts that I need to find now. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah and I'm going to look for this statistic. I'll be back.
So this is actually a question that probably brought Lisa and I together back in early 2020. Like, how do you get started and how did you and basically I give everybody the same advice. Just do it. Because nowadays you don't need fancy kit. It is better when you have fancy kit. Obviously your sound quality and your video quality goes up. But guess what, folks? In your pocket is a camera with audio, and you can take that and you can film that. And guess what? Chances are it's going to film in 4K. I think my phone actually does 8K. Never used that because that's going to take up all my memory card. But there's something for you to get started. Go and buy a cheap little tripod. Maybe go and buy a cheap lavalier microphone. I think I've got a cheap one that plugs into the bottom of my phone and it cost me £20. You don't need to spend thousands and thousands of pounds having lighting and stuff like that. I literally, like Lisa said, if you go back to the start of my videos, I was sitting in my kitchen because the best light is in my kitchen because the sun's there and I do my videos there. Now, yes, I do have lighting in this office to make it look better and stuff like that. But you can get started with very little kit as long as you have an idea and you just overcome it. I cringe, massively cringe when I look back videos, genuinely. I even cringe when I listen back to that podcast, Lisa, of us back in 2020. And you sound totally different, right? But like you say, you go on that journey, and as you get more involved in it, maybe as you get more, I don't know, if your YouTube channel gets more popular and you get money from that, you can then reinvest that back into it. I'm still trying to hit that monetization level, but you can start to invest in it if it's something that you actually enjoy doing. When I started out, I didn't want to invest too much money in case I didn't enjoy it, in case people didn't enjoy what I was doing. So I bought a cheap tripod and that lavalier microphone. So I think I spent maybe £30 UK pounds in total. And now I've spent much more, but it's because I realised that I enjoyed doing it, and it was a skill that I needed, A, for my job, and B, I enjoyed doing it as a hobby as well. So please don't get hung up on the fact that you see Lisa and I with kit and stuff, because we've built that over a period of time, so yeah, start with your mobile phone, buy a cheap microphone or something and just get going and try it, and you'll soon find out if you enjoy it or if you don't like it and things like that. To be honest,
that's such a good point. You might not enjoy it. Blogs still massively have a place. And there's all sorts of different things that are cropping up now. People are doing video series, people are doing podcasts, people are doing blogs, people are doing infographics. I would say that's kind of, I decided that I was going to try a podcast, and I was going to try blogging, and I was going to try, there was something else. I feel like there was 3 things. Maybe it was YouTube, podcast, and blogging. And I was going to see which ones stuck. And it was podcasts, and then it was YouTube. I personally do want to start blogging more, purely from a perspective of, I think writing is a really great thing to work on. So I feel like that has benefits all around. Whether people read them or not, honestly, it was like when I started the podcast, I just wanted to speak to people like Sarah.
Yeah.
So I think I would like to start blogging more in 2022, purely just for my own benefit, to improve my communication skills. And even just sort of, getting messaging and things down in my head about hybrid cloud. So, and someone's mentioned being worried about their voice. When I hear myself on a phone, I sound,
Oh yeah.
12. Yeah, blogs are not dead at all. And blogs, what you're doing there, and it's like, putting any content out there, is you are building a bank that will be there forever of your work. So I found the interesting statistic. It's from a podcast called Modern Wisdom, which, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, check it out, especially the earlier stuff. 90% of podcasts don't make it to episode 3, and and of the 10% that do, 90% don't make it past episode 20. So by making more than 20, you're putting yourself up there. Anyone doing a podcast, like make that, or something like that, make that the goal. You could apply that to anything, whether it's blog, creating content, speaking, etc. It takes time.
Yeah. Can you post the link to that in the chat, Lisa? I don't know.
I only have link to the private chat, and it was on my phone. So it's actually my friend who's a personal trainer who runs she's got a few different businesses, and one of those is mentoring other personal trainers to create businesses. She has referenced the stat from Modern Wisdom.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not entirely sure what episode it's from.
Right,
but Modern Wisdom, if you search Modern Wisdom, it's on Spotify, etc. I think it's Chris Wills X or something on Twitter and Instagram. Chris Williamson. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, going back to that comment about listening, you don't like listening to your own voice in a recording. I hated watching myself and listening to myself when I first did it. I actually got to the point where I would just play it, and I wouldn't even look until like I coughed or I had to edit it, and then I would come and look and be like, oh, I've paused this and I look hideous. You always pause it at a bit where you look hideous, like really genuinely the faces you make. Just don't let that stop you though. See, if you think you want to do something, if you want to put something out there, don't let the fact that you don't like listening to yourself put you off, because other people may want to listen to you, probably will want to listen to you. And now I can actually edit my stuff. I can look at myself and I can listen to myself. I've been doing it for like 3 or 4 years now. So it does take a while to get over that thing. And I think even if you look to some of the big celebrities like Judi Dench, or Dame Judi Dench, I think she's called, and Dame Maggie Smith as well, some of the great classics here in the UK, they've never watched themselves back. They don't they act. And so it's absolutely 100% normal not to want to listen to yourself back or watch yourself back. But please don't let that stop you from making great content and sharing your voice and sharing your opinions, because there's going to be someone out there that wants to listen to you and needs to listen to your perspective on whatever topic you're given. And
you will grow from that. Like doing those uncomfortable things and sitting with that discomfort, you will grow from that. And you'll probably get a bit more self-acceptance and as well. And that's only good for yourself,
Or Ned's making a very valid point. Farm it out. Get someone else to do the editing for you. That
ask Krist how he feels.
That's obviously a financial layout that maybe some people aren't able to do. It's something that you can do, and putting that out there and getting someone else to edit it. I've actually enjoyed learning how to use like Premiere Pro and up the sound and up the fancy graphics and stuff like that. So I wanted to keep a hold of that. But you don't have to.
Someone mentioned StreamYard as well. And what we're using just now, you can use that to record, and it's such a brilliant tool. So for my last podcast where I got the team on to talk about MS Ignite, I could have recorded it in Zoom, and then I do have really amazing like little lower thirds for my guest names and stuff. But I was getting back into it. I wanted to make sure I did one myself. So I made it as easy as possible. No one's sitting there judging you as to whether you have used the fanciest tools and the fanciest equipment to put your video out. So I just got everyone in StreamYard and recorded it, and then put my intro and outro videos on the end, and away we went. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, StreamYard is a fantastic tool because it's not, you don't have to have a fancy PC to get involved in it. It runs in a browser for anybody that's never used it before. So I don't have to get a massive graphics card. I don't have to have all that kind of power. I don't have to worry about my connection or my guest connection. It works really well, and you can do fancy graphics and banners. And I just type this in, and look, there's a fancy banner, and I just type that button in and then hit the button to make it appear. So yeah, there's tools out there that can make it a lot easier for you, and things like that. So yeah, everybody will cry OBS, and I think Simon did put that in the comments. OBS is something that I wanted to get to use because it's open broadcast software for anybody that's never used it. And it's great and it's fantastic and it can do amazing things, but it's a super steep learning curve, and I hate having to use it every time I have to use it for whatever reason, because doesn't go well and I get panicky and I start getting nervous and things go wrong that way. So yeah, OBS is great entry level if you've got the hardware to support it, because I tried to run it on my previous laptop and it didn't work and it didn't like it, and it completely was horrible. So yeah, there's always different entry points, different things to try out.
I used DaVinci Resolve to put my last one together. So I recorded in StreamYard, which made basically 95% of the video look amazing. And then I dropped it into DaVinci Resolve. I say this like I did it really easily, and I wasn't texting and panicking about how to do it, but I got there in the end, added in my intro, my outro, managed to create the video version and then the audio version for my podcast, and yeah, it worked.
Imran's talking about imposter syndrome and how he'd never come across the term until earlier this year, and he's still coming across people that don't know what it is but suffer from it. I have suffered from it at times. I sometimes tell myself to get a grip and move on because it's all in my head sometimes, Lisa. But imposter syndrome, is that something that you sometimes struggle with?
Imran also said that I did a great video on it, and Imran is correct. I did a really good talk on it, which I am now scrambling for the content, because then when I'll tell you something, right? So when I took my months off away from everything, one, it was definitely needed, and two, I would definitely do it again if I needed to. And I wrote a post on LinkedIn, and I said to people, if you need to take a break and you need to stop, just do it. However, having now done that and doing this whole extreme one to the other type thing, I would advise that you have a plan for coming back in and a timeline, because I started to feel like, I should really get back in now. And then I had this overwhelm of how, when, I can't even remember how to use Twitter. Do I even know what I'm talking about when it comes to Azure Stack? It was really overwhelming. So I would advise, first of all, that if you do take a time out, have a plan to come back to ease yourself back in. It doesn't need to be I'm definitely coming back on this date, but after 2 months or a month, I'm going to reevaluate, and this is definitely do that, because now what I'm trying to do is locate my slides from that very awesome talk, because I did research on it. It had formed part of my how starting a podcast got me through a pandemic talk, and then I decided to beef out a little bit more, and I delivered a talk at a user group last year purely on imposter syndrome, and I came up with there's like an advised 5-step process on how to deal with it. So I'm just gonna look for those slides.
Hello to Michael that's joined us. Thank you for joining us. And I think we're allowed to say Merry Christmas. We actually did a show with Michael. Was it last year? This year?
This year. I think it was one of the last ones I did was about videos, and it was one of your lives.
Yeah. we did that, so that was fun. We need to do more of these live
I'm loving the
ones.
fact that people are here still just listening to us have it. I mean, it is a slightly controlled catch up than it would be, but it's. And I love that you guys are all just like chatting in the chat as well. Oh, thanks, Chris. I've actually just found the deck, so I'll get back to you on that great advice about imposter syndrome once I've figured out what it is myself.
But yeah, it is a hard one because a lot of people suffer from it, and a lot of people who are potentially, I want to say, big celebrities or high profile people in the industry or in the community suffer from it, even though they might not seem to. So anybody that's suffering out there, please don't think you're alone, because you're not.
I found the slides.
Have you?
Do a whole talk here.
Are you going to do a whole talk, Lisa?
No. We won't do that. But, you know, it's good to know that this video was useful. And I think it was uploaded onto the user groups. It was cork.net.
All right, okay.
It was in June. And I think they uploaded it. And I'm not sure if I then uploaded it to my YouTube. I will need to check. But we'll have a look. See, I'm not back in the game fully yet, guys. I'm not back in it. But it was overcoming imposter syndrome using the 5 R's. So I talked about imposter syndrome and the Dunning-Kruger effect. I talked about what is a cognitive bias, what actually is imposter syndrome. So some examples are: you might feel undeserving of your achievements. You might feel like success is down to luck. You might feel like a fraud, or like you might be discovered at any point. That's definitely one of mine. And it's where simple sort of self-criticism, which can be healthy in small doses, sort of snowballs into imposter syndrome. And that's kind of where it goes a bit wrong. But in my talk, I said, you're not broken, you are human. So that's a little reminder for myself. And then the 5 R's to overcome imposter syndrome. You all ready to take notes?
I found the video and I've posted the link in the chat.
Good. We're having an impromptu session, right? So I won't do the whole set. I won't do it now. You can go and watch the video. I won't watch the video back after we just talked about that. So I will read these 5 R's myself tonight. But basically it's recognize, rationalize, reframe, ready yourself, and repeat. I think I mentioned this earlier. It's really important that when thoughts come into your head, to recognize and then label them. That's like a really helpful method. So recognizing and being aware of imposter syndrome and labeling it as such kind of stops the thought in its tracks and allows you to deal with it. Rationalize, so, you know, acknowledge your achievements that maybe led you to this point. Keep an achievement diary, from really small things up to really big things in your life. Maybe start to do that so you can go back to it. Then reframe. So this is about changing your perception of that thought. So try and catch them, label them, especially thoughts that are very all or nothing. Like I said before about burnout, I think that's a good sign. And try and recognize areas of wins and positives and areas for improvements, and get out of the all or nothing. Ready yourself. So probably the toughest stage, and that's when you ready yourself to let go of those thoughts and those self-doubts, and then repeat, because it doesn't go away. You just get better at dealing with it. So be kind to yourself when you are as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things I do on that is I actually keep a stat of all the speaking gigs that I do. So every conference I've ever spoke at, I've actually got a Power BI dashboard and a SQL server that stores all that data. I'm such a nerd. But I like to look at that occasionally. See when I panic about the fact that I'm underprepared for another talk, or I'm worried about the fact that this is a rubbish talk and people's going to hate it. I sometimes look at that little chart and remember that I've been around the world and I've spoke to hundreds and thousands of people, Lisa, and it's like the kick up the bum that I need to either do the slide deck for the upcoming presentation I'm about to do and I'm panicking about, or it just reminds me and it gives me that lovely sense of achievement that sometimes I forget because I'm too busy thinking about, oh, I'm going to be rubbish, people are going to hate me, they're not going to like this is not what it should be, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's
it definitely never goes away, and it definitely can hit at any point. This morning I had a really great chat with a sales team and I loved it. I was allowed to let go a little bit, so I wasn't towing the company line entirely. I was asked for my opinions, and so I gave my opinions. But it was in a constructive way around cloud, multi-cloud, etc., hybrid clouds, and we had really great conversation. And I left that meeting feeling really energized, and I was totally ready to go in and record this webinar. And I don't know what it is about recorded webinars versus live webinars, but when I started to do them last year, I struggled with this. As soon as I slipped up, it all fell apart because I knew I could do a redo. But as soon as I did it once, then it just spiraled. And this webinar earlier today, wow, was awful. I'm not a fan. I'm sure it's all right. It's definitely not my best. It's definitely not up to the standard of what I can do. And that was funny because I was like, it's like an outer body experience. I could see myself. I kept slipping up and then having to redo it and getting worse. And honestly, I started sweating and everything. And I was like, this is horrible. Just as well, this is recorded and behind my desk. And the thoughts that were coming into my head were ridiculous. It was like, see, told you were, you've taken too much time off. You don't know what you're doing. All these kind of things. It's difficult. It's really difficult. So I think, don't expect to cure it, but do actively try and find ways that it doesn't create barriers to you doing what you are more than capable of doing.
Exactly. And I think sometimes we forget when we see those like video recordings that it looks dead flawless as well, Lisa. But what you've not seen is the garbage that is on the cutting room floor. Like I filmed a video this morning for you for your Azure Stack and Azure Arc Christmas event.
You've just released a secret piece of information.
Oh,
I've not told anybody that you're a guest. I mean, it's not. I'm sure everyone's like, wow. But Sarah is appearing in my 12 Days of Christmas.
I forgot that was a secret, and there was folk listening to us. But yeah, there's anyway, there's tons of edits, and I might release some of them in a bloopers reel at the end of the year. But there's tons of stuff that went on that like got cut and got binned and deleted I can't remember how long that video is, 4 or 5 minutes or something. There was about 10 minutes of footage. So it got cramped down because of the absolute garbage that came out of my mouth the first couple of takes. So I think some people see like those one take videos on like YouTube or whatever and think, well, I can't do that because I can't do it in one take. Guess what, folks? I very rarely do a video in one take. Sometimes I can. But don't let that kind of awesomeness that you see put you off as well. Because that sometimes I think is a barrier for people, and it helps kick off that imposter syndrome sometimes for some people. And then I'm rambling because I've let out my secret.
It's weird as well because I feel like if that webinar was live, I think I would have been fine. Yeah. Because when you're live, there is no other option. So even if you do mess up, fumble, lose your train of thought, you like survival mode kicks in. Yeah. You have to. So I was extremely frustrated at myself, which means I have not actually recorded my video because it put me in a bad mood. Which is, it's all right, I'm human, but I am trying to work on not letting things affect me like that. Because that's definitely something that I've been struggling with recently, is things really affecting me and then affecting the rest of my day or what I can do. But we'll get there.
It's definitely like if you have a bad experience like that, don't let it continue to upset other things or let it play on your mind, which is easier said than done. Because there's times when I
talk to someone about it. Yeah, I put a message into my team chat and I was like, guys, I just tanked a webinar. Yeah. And again, I mentioned him earlier, Michael Wells and a few other, Janth as well, messaged just like little words of encouragement. And it was funny because I messaged and then I thought, oh, do I look like I'm just moaning or being emotional or, whatever. But I was like, no, like this is it. Like we all do these things. Like sure, I just wanted to share like how I felt and see if they had any had any thoughts, and they were like super supportive, so that was nice.
But I think we also have to remember we don't have to be 100% in everything that we do, which is
No.
maybe a weird statement, but it's about improving yourself.
Is not the one.
Yeah, you can't always hit perfection. There'll be some days when you are absolutely nailing it out the door, you're ticking every box, you're delivering things fantastically, but that perfection can't last all the time. You rarely hit that perfection all the time. So don't worry about it. Just put it to the side and then learn from that experience and try to be 1% better the next time you do it.
And perfectionism isn't relatable. We're all humans. We all suffer from everything that we've spoken about tonight. So yes, I'll just continue to be a hot mess on camera.
Oh,
that's no 2022. That's what's happening on Lisa at the Edge. We'll see.
Nice.
What's happening.
I was actually going to try and wrap this up with that question about what are you planning to do for 2022, Lisa?
Yes.
Is there anything you want to do differently, better, new, repeat some stuff? What's the plan?
Oh, now you're asking. This is deep to be hinging on.
And it's on camera, so you've committed to it. So
so I definitely want to get back into Lisa at the Edge. I think that I need to be really realistic about what that means. I don't think I'll be able to do as much as I did before. And so I will probably just focus on Lisa at the Edge. I want to sit down, to be honest, and have a realistic, maybe 3 to 6 month plan, sort of set some really high level 12-month goals, and then, maybe get a little bit more detailed for 3 to 6 months. I want to be realistic. So, I'm not doing a podcast a week. That's not happening. Bailey is going to feature heavily in my life in 2022 and really be my priority. I think myself and my horse will be my priority for 2022. But yeah, I want to get back to Lisa at the Edge podcast. I want to do more with my teammates around Azure Stack and Azure Stack HCI, because we have a great bunch of people on the team and they are so knowledgeable on the topic. So I want to do more with them. I definitely want to try. Here we go. I don't want to do too much, but here's everything that I want to do.
There's about 20 things on the list.
I know. I definitely do want to try and write more. So I want to try blogging. Nobody pay attention to that. It's going to be my little practice whilst I write. But yeah, I think, and just really try and strive for that whole work-life balance. I think it's going to be easier now that I have a life outside of work and I have a horse. But I think, yeah, just try for that. Try and going back to the whole women in tech thing, try my best to just represent, help out where I can, and try and not let things get me down. And definitely make the most of the relationships that I've made in the last few years with the community, like with yourself. You've been a wee rock, Sarah, and you're sorry to tell you this, but you're going to continue to be a rock in 2022. So that's the role that you have.
Awesome.
That's me. What's up for Techielass? Because actually, before you go, I want to ask you about your new job.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think you've done your weekly updates and stuff, still joining, but I think give everyone a little update on where you are now and what you're up to, and then tell me about what you got planned for 2022.
So yeah, I think it's about 2 months since I joined Octopus Deploy, which is just a scary amount of time that's passed, Lisa, in a totally good way. So yeah, I'm now part of Octopus Deploy. I'm working in the community team with Derek Campbell, and there's a few folk joining us in the new year, which I'm super excited about, to expand the team. Basically, we are looking at the kind of advocacy side of things and building up that community, that DevOps community that use Octopus Deploy, and hopefully we've got amazing plans. I'll try and not give away too many secrets after one secret already tonight. But yeah, we've got super amazing plans on the go. So I've got lots of learning to do, because I'll be honest, I never touched Octopus Deploy before I joined the company. So there's a massive learning curve there for me to ramp up my knowledge on the product itself and then have a look at other things that surround it. So I've obviously got my Azure knowledge that I'm going to pull in and use to do that. I've just realised that, and maybe not everybody knows what Octopus Deploy is. It's a DevOps tool that can help you with that automation. That's a really simplistic view of it, but I did write a blog this week on it, so head over to my blog if you want to see more. But yeah, so I've got a lot of knowledge to ramp up on Octopus Deploy. I do want to get more involved with AWS. I've signed myself up for a training plan to learn a bit more about AWS with the view of actually sitting that first kind of exam. I can't remember what they call their exam. So yeah, there's a lot of things I want to do in terms of the work with that, and then we'll see where that takes us. So we've got super exciting stuff coming out of that. I still want to do a lot of the community stuff. I think a lot of people forgot that I did like my YouTube channel, my weekly video, my blog, the Glasgow Azure user group, all as outside activities from Microsoft. Like I was not paid to do any of them. I'm still not paid.
You were outside of your role as a community member, much like, for instance, an MVP might do.
Yes. So yeah, lots of those activities. So I still want to do that. I still want to try and find time to do that. I have been, I'll be honest, questioning whether I still do my weekly videos. There are a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I'm now at like 118 or something of them, Lisa. So I feel like it's a
stop at the end of this year and then next year do like a monthly update.
I know I'm toying with doing something differently, but I feel it's also a shame to stop doing that, and I kind of want to keep doing that run to hit like the big numbers. So yeah, someone's asking if I'm an MVP. I'm not. I never have been.
Sarah used to work for Microsoft, so you can't be an MVP if you work for Microsoft. But now that she is no longer working for Microsoft.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with all the stuff, the activities that I want to do, because I still want to do speaking. I still want to do my blog. I enjoy doing that. I'm getting cadence out of that. Still enjoy the YouTube stuff. It's just about trying to fit that in and have that work-life balance, Lisa, because I don't want to be spending every day learning something amazing and doing stuff amazingly for Octopus Deploy and then sit here in the same spot at night and have to do that every single night. That's definitely not where I want to be.
I think we need to have a planning session, because we both just said, I want to find work-life balance. I don't want to do as much. We spoke about the expectations that we now have on ourselves after everything that we've done. And then we've listed out a whole bunch of stuff that we want to do. So I think what we need to do, it would be quite nice actually, end of the year, have a bit of a planning session and realistically talk to each other about what is available.
I think I need to figure out what the output of some of those activities are, like what I'm trying to get out of them, because I enjoy them all, but then I don't have enough time for all of them at the same time. So which ones I want to prioritize and what's the objective for long term, like 5 years, 10 years, all that kind of good stuff, I think is where I need to be at. So 2022, although I already have some holidays booked, so I've got vacations booked, so there will be times when I won't be around. So I'm super excited about that, because we've not really had vacations much in the last 2 years. So yes,
vacations away from the home.
Yes. So yeah, I've got them booked and stuff like that. So definitely forward planning about getting back out there and doing the stuff that's not inside this room, Lisa, but there's going to be lots of stuff that will happen inside this room as well. So but I think this is probably a good place to wrap up.
For hanging with us.
I know.
I'm actually amazed. It's been going well for Scottish Summit and being in person conferences.
I know. I've really enjoyed this, actually. This has been really fun, and I can't believe we've been here for quite a while. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Thank you for all the chat, the questions, the conversations. Thank you, Lisa, for joining me and giving up your evening to be here with me as well and doing this and being a great friend and supportee and all that fun stuff.
Only for you, Sarah.
Thank you, everybody. We really do appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.